All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 14th of June, 2024. Flyers Daily, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. I got a note after Wednesday's episode from a great Flyer fan named Dan. Dan and I correspond via DM quite often. And he said something, and it really meant a lot to me. Because Danny's a discerning guy. He doesn't throw compliments around. He throws them around like manhole covers. Doesn't throw them around all the time. But when you do well, he'll throw you a compliment. He said, loved your interview with Sanheim. It's a great example as to how your conversational style allows a listener to get to know the player a bit more off the ice. He said, I now have a better understanding of the person after your interview. Good stuff. Just 120 days to opening night. Love the passion for the game. And I told him, thank you, Danny. Appreciate that. And I read that and I said, as intended. Because one of the things that I try and do in those conversations is for all of us to get to know these players more as people, not as the mercenary hockey player. We see players 82 nights a year for 3 periods of hockey, 2 hours and 40 minutes of real time. There's 21 hours left in a game day, and there's a lot of other days where these players are being human. And trying to peel that back is one of the great challenges that I like to take on. And our guest in this episode is one of those guys. We hear so much about character. And sometimes I think these terms and these words get thrown around in sports a little too freely. And everybody's got character if they made it to that level, or everybody's got talent if they make it to that level, the top 1% of 1%. And to some degree, some of those things are true. But when you measure professional athletes against professional athletes, that's where the measure is different. And there can be a guy that's got more character, more desire, more skill, less skill than other players. And our player in this episode is a guy that maybe doesn't have as much skill as some of his contemporaries around the league. Maybe he's a guy that, had to work for everything he's gotten to get where he is. Maybe he's a guy that had to persevere, almost give up the game before finally getting a multi-year commitment from an NHL team. I'm talking about Nick Seeler. We know the story of Nick Seeler. He's a guy that considered ending his journey a few years ago as a professional hockey player. He was at a crossroads. He didn't know where he fit. Didn't know if there was more bright days ahead. And he found his way to Philadelphia. And since he's been here in Philadelphia, it didn't start. Nick Seeler didn't come in as some as advertised solution. Nobody was thinking that when the Flyers acquired Nick Seeler heading into the 21-22 season. He played only 43 games that year. He had 3 points, a goal, and 2 assists. Then in 22-23, in John Tortorella's first year, Nick Seeler played 77 games. He had 4 goals, 10 assists, 14 points. He averaged 14 minutes and 29 seconds of ice time. Then this past season, he was paired with Sean Walker, and the two hit the ground running and complemented each other beautifully. Played in 71 games. He ended up finishing the season, which you'll hear him talk about. He averaged 16 minutes and 57 seconds of ice time. He had a goal and 12 assists, 13 points, and he was a +9 on the season, which is a telling number. All said and done for the Flyers, he's played 191 games, more than he's played for any other franchise. 30 points, +7. He blocks shots like little kids pop M&Ms at Halloween. That's what he does. He is character personified. And there is a ton of gratefulness in Nick Seeler when he talks about signing that 4-year extension. And we're going to talk more about that after you hear my conversation with the Flyers defenseman. Flyers breakup day as the season has come to an end. We're with Flyers defenseman Nick Seeler. Nick, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, man. It felt good to come back from the injury and get some games and not end the season without getting back.
Yeah. It certainly was nice to come back and not have it impact the entire rest of the year. So that was really nice, and you don't like sitting out at all, and especially with injury, and you'd rather be out there competing with your teammates. So that was great to get back, and obviously it's still a little fresh right now. Disappointing, the way the season wrapped up there, but a lot of positives coming out of this year for our group, and the way we showed some resiliency in the last 3 games and played really well after a tough stretch there.
There was a good chance that we could have been sitting here right now and you facing a very uncertain future of unrestricted free agency. That wasn't the case. You extended here. To not have that to even worry about at this time, I imagine is a great big relief to you and your family.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's very special, and it means a ton to me. And being in this organization is it's been nothing but great. It's to have that 4-year extension and not have to worry about where you're going to play next year, and
you've never had this kind of commitment, right?
Yeah, I haven't had that in my career. It just means that much more, and to have it be in a place where, as I've said before, you feel respected, and they know your game, and they know you as a person, and the direction this group's going. It's really fun to be a part of. When
you don't have that, and you see other guys at the end of seasons, and you have that, you carry uncertainty. I've always said when there's uncertainty, I want to punch the guy in the face who whistles in the supermarket. You know what I mean? He doesn't have a care in the world.
Right.
And I go, man, there's an envy in that. And you'd see guys with these multi-year contracts and that commitment. Now you're one of those guys. Does it make you appreciate it more?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. I mean, I appreciated the contracts I received anyway. Yeah. It didn't matter.
There's always something to prove.
Yeah, absolutely, and there still is. There's always room for growth and earning your teammates and coaches and organizations respect every single day, and going to work the same way every day. But it is certainly great to have that extension.
Yeah, no doubt about it. How do you detach from the season? It's raw right now.
Yeah, it's fresh. It's I wish we were still playing. It's tough to pill to swallow, especially obviously it's happened last night. But I'll take a couple weeks here and regroup, heal the body, and then get back to it. And I'll be in Minnesota this summer, so I'll be
fishing.
Yeah, I'll do a little fishing, maybe a little golfing. I always go on a fishing trip with my dad every summer, so that's something to look forward to. And go up to the cabin and spend some time with family, and obviously the training and skating schedule throughout the season or the summer as well. So,
Seals, congrats on the contract, congrats on the season. You and Jamie Drysdale, I think you guys can work really well together, like kind of how you and Walks work together too. So I'm looking forward to seeing that next year, and when Jamie gets a little more Bradshaw in his life and all of those things, right? So enjoy the offseason. Thanks for everything this year. We appreciate it as always, and we'll be talking soon.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
There he is, Flyers defenseman Nick Seeler. You heard him talking about the contract and what it means to be extended here in Philadelphia, and he said it means a lot to me here because you're respected. They know what kind of person you are. And to me, those things are really important. And like I said, to go back where we kind of started the episode, we see hockey players play hockey, but they are human. And the human element is part of the equation for this team going forward and building. We've talked about this with Travis Konechny. What does it say to the existing locker room you have if a guy that was drafted, developed, had his best years, is due to get paid, is cast aside in some trade? for young draft capital or whatever it is, what does that say to the existing players here that are coming up to that same period of time eventually in their career when they get to unrestricted free agency? And what does it say to players around the league? It says a lot. And if you just cast that player aside, it says a lot to those players. Something I don't think that we can fully put our finger on how much it does mean. But when you see a player like Nick Seeler, who went out there, was at that crossroads of his hockey career, and gets that 4-year extension, gets that contract that nobody else was ever willing to give him. And for the next 4 years, he'll be taken care of. Not a big cap hit, $2.7 million. He does have a no-trade clause the first 2 years of that deal. But Nick Seeler is 31 years of age. And if you're trying to have a team do a rebuild the right way, we can disagree about tearing it down, trading off pieces, draft, and all that. So we can disagree on that. But where I think we all do agree is that if you are rebuilding, you're not only rebuilding your stockpile of talent and hockey players, you're also rebuilding your culture, your standard, the way you do things, the way you're perceived both here and externally. And I think we'll all agree. And I know there's probably people that don't like the fact that Nick Seeler signed a 4-year contract here. And look, I think that number, if in the last year he's blocking someone, he won't block someone. They'll move him, or he'll be a 7th defenseman. But I think we all agree that having a guy like Nick Seeler here to have an impact on young players is a good thing in a rebuild. That element matters. You cannot put a stat on it. It's not like average time on ice. It's not a block shot. It's not an assist. It's not a goal. It's not a play driver. It's none of those things. But it is massively important. We'll be back Monday. Bill Meltzer will join us as we inch closer to the draft. We'll start looking at the draft as well, as I think Danny Briere and Brent Flair are going to have a media availability next week. So join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.